So next, I'm going to show an example of something that is a bit more realistic of why you would use a class method. So commonly, class methods will be used when you're actually creating a new instance of a class. So let me comment all of this out. Let's say I'm working with CSV files, comma separated values, and a lot of my data, each row looks like this, where we have Tom, comma, Jones is the last name, and then an age, like 89. And then another row might be, Sue, comma, oh gosh, this is the hardest part, coming up with names. How about Pritchett? I don't even know if that's how you spell Pritchett, who is 12. Very old name for a 12-year-old. Okay, so if we have this data coming in, obviously we cannot pass that in to user as is, like up here where we're passing in these 3 arguments. But if we wanted to add a method to our class that would handle this for us, because if this is a really common use case, this isn't a one-time thing, but the way our app is set up, we have data coming in as a string. And I'm not just saying only as strings, but if you have data coming in one way and you need to turn it into another format before a init is called. Sorry to interrupt here. This is Colt from the future. I thought of a good example for this of something we've already used, but I already recorded the video, so I'm inserting this somewhat awkwardly. But this is the example of something we've already seen as a class method that actually goes on and creates a new instance for us. If you remember dict.fromKeys, we had to call it with dict rather than a lot of the other dictionary methods where we actually called them on an instance of a dictionary. We call dict, which is a class. It's not capitalized because it's built in, but conventionally, if we created our own class like user, it should be capitalized. Anyways, what fromKeys does, can give it some sort of collection, like let's go with name and age and city. And then the second argument is the value that it should be initialized to. So these are all going to be keys and a corresponding value like unknown or none or 0. And what this does is when we call dict.fromKeys, the class method, it actually goes and then calls dict like this, and it basically passes in our data for us. It turns it into this format, which is going to return to us a new dictionary, which is what we see right here. So this is like the preliminary step we call fromKeys. It's a class method that generates a new instance for us by calling the dict class, if that makes sense. We're going to do the same thing with user by making a method that takes in a string, we'll call it fromString, and it returns a new user instance. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled program. What we can do is instead of doing user Sue Pritchett, passing that string in, we can define a class method. So another one. And let's just call this one fromString. And it's going to be a class method, so we need CLS. And then let's call the second parameter like data string or something like this. So this will be what is actually being passed in. Now to execute it, we would not run like this. It's not going to work. First of all, I should mention that. But the idea is that we would call user.fromString and pass this entire string in. And it should return to us a user that has first name Tom, last name Jones, age 89. So it should take care of all of that for us. So it needs to be a class method because we're actually going to call class. Remember, the variable class is user itself. So when we print, it's not the string user, it's the actual class user. So what we could do, if we called class CLS, and then I passed in John Stones, comma 64, 63, this is going to make a new user because user is passed in as class because it's a class method. So this is then going to call user John Stones. So we can take advantage of that. We have our string of data. I need to indent everything. And we're just going to split it on the commas. So we can do a data str.split on comma like that. And then we'll assign 3 different variables. So we'll have first, comma last, comma age equals the string.split on the comma. That gives us 3 variables. And then we can just pass in first, last, and age. Technically, this will be a string, so we'll handle that in a second. And then we can just return this. So this class method, we still have to manually call it with fromString, but it's going to then take in that data string, split it up, and then take the 3 pieces of data it's split up, and then create a new user with it using CLS. So instead of user there, we'll call it CLS, which is user is passed in automatically because it's a class method. I'm missing an S, just realized. And then that itself will then run a init, just like this right here, where we call user Joe Smith 68. Same thing here. So we're going to return a new instance of user. All right, let's give it a shot. So down here, I have user from string. Let's save it to a variable, which is called Tom. And then we'll do like print Tom dot first. And let's try one of the methods, like, what do we have, full name? Let's try executing it. And I'm missing a colon. It's been a while since I missed a colon. Hopefully you caught that before me. Now let's try again. All right, so now we can tell we've actually created a new user instance of the user class with first name is Tom, and we can see last name worked because full name is printing out. The last little thing we could change is to make int an age. So we could honestly just do this here, int, like that. And we'll just do print Tom.birthday, and we get happy 90th Tom. So he went from being 69 to aging 1 to 90, or 69, what am I saying? He went from 89 to 90. All right, so let's wrap this up. We saw class methods in this video. They are methods where first we write the decorator at class method to signify the following method is a class method. Automatically, when we call the method, the class itself, user, is passed in. So we want to name this parameter something that makes sense. So CLS is the standard. And you only write these methods if you do not need access to any data about the instances or a particular instance. And you're doing something on the entire class level, like we're doing here, where we're actually going on to create a new instance of the class. So this is a common pattern. If you have data that's coming in one way, or you need to validate data, you need to do something before a user is created, or whatever the class is, you could use a class method to do it. Okay, that's a lot, I know. Next, more exercises.